Hello, fellow Americans. Welcome to the Mitch Henley Show.
Hey, man, I'm going all the way. We'll never live this down. I don't care what people say. If I become a swinging somebody, I'll get my pictures and I'll sell it out.
All right, that's the new theme, I guess. Didn't want to go on too long, though, because I got so much to talk about today. None of it really has any importance, but, a show is a show. So here we go. So as is wont to happen from time to time, Mitch goes on a date. It happens. Come on. So, we go to dinner. We go to a show. We go see a local band. And afterwards, I can tell that she's very interested in the evening continuing. But still there's that innocent frivolity that all young relationships have. And by relationships, I mean, friendships, acquaintances. They are all relationships. This thing that this woman and I have going, while young, while in its infancy, is indeed a relationship. That relationship could end in hours, days, months, years, or in the death of one of us of old age. That's obviously the best scenario. But anyway, so we're hanging out, and she says, "Hey, let's go get some ice cream." Now, I love ice cream. Love it. Love it! I mean, thing is, though, I'm sorry, I'm bumping my own microphone stand here. Yeah, alright. We run a tight ship here, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, she says to me, "Hey, would you like some ice cream?" Keep in mind that it's about 2:30 in the morning. So really our only option is McDonald's. I have never had a soft serve. I have never wanted to have a soft serve ice cream cone. The operative word being cone, although soft serve does not appeal to me on any level either. But my lady wanted a cone. And when she realized that I was not getting a cone, in fact, I was getting the mocha frappe, which I am addicted to. I don't care what anybody says about McDonald's. That mocha frappe is money, baby. And I believe that a large has like 5,000 calories. Every calorie is worth it. Okay, in honesty, I believe it's only 700. But even so, all worth it. I got a big ass, but it's worth it. So anyway, I'm ordering my mocha, and she looks at me like, What are you doing? We came here for ice cream cones, right? We were going to romantically eat ice cream cones together. I don't like ice cream cones. I don't do ice cream cones. And again, she looked at me like, Are you broken? Are you from another planet sent here to ruin my day? No, I just don't like ice cream cones. So she got her ice cream cone and ate it, quite joyously until it started dripping. And it dripped on her jacket, her designer jacket, the one she wears on dates. And then it dripped on her shoes. Her expensive shoes that she wears on dates. High heels. Sexy. Yes, I'm getting turned on just talking about it. And I didn't say anything, but she was basically illustrating before both of our eyes why I do not do ice cream cones. Here are the reasons to not do ice cream cones. Thank you very much. Number one is the time limit. The hotter it is wherever you are, the faster you got to eat that thing, man. And if you don't, then you run into number two. Boom! Drip factor. We've all been there, ladies and gentlemen, no matter how careful we were. I mean, we were eating an ice cream cone in a freezer, and it still dripped. How is that possible? Number three, we've got the design flaws in the cone itself. I mean, you've got the traditional cake cone, which generally winds up doing a number on the roof of your mouth, for one thing. But then you got the sugar and the waffle cones that are essentially dough that has been wrapped funnel style, which is great if you're trying to top off your engine's oil and you need a funnel. But it's horrible if you're trying not to get dripped on, because as soon as that ice cream starts melting inside that cone, it's going to drip out of the bottom where that hole is. Because for some reason, when they're wrapping that cone, they can never think, hey, there's a hole there. I better plug that with this dough that I have right here in my hands anyway. Just smush it together, close that hole. But they don't do that. And invariably, leaks happen, and, somebody's nice date jacket gets temporarily ruined. You got to drag it down to the dry cleaner and, pay the $4. But it's the trip there and back that's the pain in the ass, because it's not instantaneous. You got to drop it off and you got to come back and pick it up. It's like a kid. It's like you're dropping your coat off at daycare. And fourth and final is that you end up relying on those around you to help you. In other words, an ice cream cone is not a one-person job. Just ask the woman I was with. Because when it started dripping, what did she do? She was like, here, can you hold this? What, can I hold this drippy, wet, sticky mess of a cone that you've got there? Of course I can. Thank you very much. And let's say you're driving and you realize that you need both hands to navigate whatever obstacles are in front of you. What do? You hand the cone to your passenger, who probably already has a cone of their own. So now they got two cones in their hands. They got no free hands. They're looking at you like, hey, man, do you even know how to eat this? This is just a soppy mess. What is wrong with you? So there's 4 good reasons why Mitch does not do ice cream cones. The other day, I'm watching TV. I don't watch much TV, but when I do, I pay careful attention to the commercials. I'm a bit of a commercial whisperer, if you will. And the ad industry would be smart to hang on my every word. So the commercial that I'm watching shows a dude on a construction site who has shampooed his hair with the shampoo in question and is sitting there just having the day of his life, oh yes, my hair is so fluffy. And a woman walks by and she whistles at him. Number one, I've never seen that happen in real life. I'm sure it has. I mean, it's got to, right? I mean, so much other stuff that we never thought would happen has happened, that you've got to think that at least one male construction worker in the history of humankind has been catcalled by a woman. So let's run a little bit with this premise. In the commercial, the guy's response is, oh shucks, here, let me do another hair flip for you, baby. Any other dude's response would be, hey man, you want to duck into this porta potty for 90 seconds and let me shoot my load into your hair? No? Okay, have a nice day. I mean, the whole purpose of the cat call is to basically say, hey, baby, I would like to bang you right now. I mean, is that something that we can all agree on? Yes? Okay, good. So we have interest equaling willingness to have sex with that person that just catcalled you. I mean, that is the unwritten rule of catcalling. I like what you got going on. Let's bump uglies. So if you're not prepared to go the full distance, do not make a catcall. A catcall is not a platonic compliment. It is a call to action. So the fact that this woman would catcall that dude is basically saying, I go around catcalling and banging construction workers in porta potties. Which I don't think is the message that this particular shampoo was sending. The thing is, commercials have I don't know, what's the word I am looking for? They have morphed. They have adapted. Because they're always trying to find ways to get us to listen, because we have been programmed by commercials to tune out commercials. So nowadays, we've got a lot of DJs and radio personalities who do ad spots where they claim to use the product in question. Oh, hey, Mike and Mike, we both use the such and such home security system, and I gotta say that it's quite dependable, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, first and foremost, I don't believe for a second that you use this security system or this deodorant or deal-.com or whatever the product in question is. And I'm annoyed by the idea that they expect us to believe that. I think we're all past believing in the tooth fairy. So, I mean, let's dispense with this. I mean, granted, sometimes the sponsor will provide the service to the radio personality so that they can speak knowledgeably on it, because they like to do this kind of ad-lib thing. And if you have no idea what the product is like or about, then you're going to look like a fool doing it. But for the most part, it's just a script. And the script is basically doctored to, read like, hey, I was just cooking on my George Foreman grill at home, and I gotta say, the meat turned out great. It was the most succulent burger I've ever had. Never mind that the person saying that is a militant vegetarian. So the fact that they're reading this spot for the George Foreman grill as if they've got one is just bullshit. And it just kind of annoys me. And so what can we do about it? Absolutely nothing. I'm just registering my annoyance with the concept. I mean, to take it a step further, I can tell you in no uncertain terms that I have never been swayed to use a product because I thought such and such radio personality claimed to use it. Does that make me smarter than the average bear, you ask? No, just less of a lemming or dodo bird willing to follow the ass in front of them off a cliff. Speaking of off a cliff, the music industry. Keep in mind, this is one of my favorite subjects. Another favorite subject, the death of the music industry. Because let's face it, we've reached a point where you no longer have to pay for music that costs money to make. I mean, that's a blueprint for disaster, I believe. I mean, just go ahead, type me up a business plan with that kind of concept, and let's just see how much money we get from venture capitalists and whatnot. Oh, we got a lot of money from them? Oh, well, that's because the people inside the music industry are killing the music industry and selling off parts of the industry for pennies on the dollar. The deal that the Spotifys and the YouTubes and all these other streaming services got from the music industry was a sweetheart deal that included part ownership of all of these entities, so that if Spotify starts making money, the record labels will see some money from that as well. Of course, the labels also see money from the streaming derived from the advertising that appears on YouTube and Spotify and whatnot. And they tend to keep most of it, and some of it, a little teeny bit, kind of half a penny left over here and there, goes to the artist. So I've been in the music biz all my life in one form or another since I was 18, in fact. Okay, not all my life. But, I mean, life begins at 18. We can all agree on that. So that's 32 years for those of you keeping score at home. I've seen good times and I've seen huge slumps where the music biz thought it might never recover. But something always came along to save the industry from itself. The first real slump that I saw firsthand was back in like 1980 through to 1982, 1983, when sales declined significantly for 3 straight years, and all these labels started to get really nervous. A lot of them literally thought the music business had run its course. I mean, they were all planning for the worst. Even so, in their infinite wisdom, they still managed to come up with a genius method to save the industry. Here it is. Hey guys, I got an idea. Why don't we raise the price? You see where I'm going with this? No? Now, see, this is corporate logic at its best. If something's not selling, then of course, raise the price. That way, you've got an excuse to tell the guys above you for why it didn't sell. I don't know, I think maybe we just charged too much. It was MCA Records that was the label that was driving this mode of thinking. And to add further insult to, I don't know, genius, the first album they decided to carry this new higher pricing would be the new Tom Petty album, Hard Promises. Now you're probably saying, well, that makes sense. I mean, Tom Petty was popular back in 1981. Well, yes, he was. But he had also just gotten out of a huge, huge lawsuit with MCA. I mean, it was gigantic. He claimed, he filed for bankruptcy. He paid for his own band's recording sessions because they were recording their third album at the time that all of this was going on. And every night they would have one of their roadies take the tapes to some undisclosed location that they knew nothing about. So if the lawyers from MCA came after them and said, "Where are the fucking tapes?" they could actually say, "We have no fucking idea. We don't know. We literally do not know where they are." And then the next day the roadie shows up with the tapes and the sessions continue. They never seem to show up during the sessions. That would be the thing to do. I mean, if I'm MCA, I mean, it's not hard to figure out where in LA an LA band is recording their album. So if they really wanted to get their hands on those masters, they could have. I mean, amazingly, they didn't think of that. So back to this original lawsuit. What had happened is that Tom Petty had been signed to Shelter Records, and Shelter Records had a deal with ABC. ABC Records had just been sold to MCA, so everything that was affiliated with ABC was now the property of MCA. And this, of course, meant every artist on Shelter Records, including their flagship artist, Tom Petty. Tom Petty, however, did not share this sentiment. Because he had released 2 very successful albums for Shelter and was still not seeing any money, Tom Petty was now of the mind that the deal that he had signed was bad, and he saw this deal with MCA as the method by which his contract could be voided. And that is essentially what led to this huge skirmish between he and MCA. And so they fought him tooth and nail, and it went on forever and ever and ever. And it was very stressful for Tom Petty and the band because they could have been ended. I mean, MCA could have put them in a limbo whereby they were never heard from again. They could not record for anybody. And that has happened to a lot of great bands over the years. You wonder why they went away. Well, that's why they went away. In the case of Tom Petty, he was not going away, and he fought the label tooth and nail. And my favorite story was when he was supposedly in one of these big conference rooms with all of the lawyers from MCA and his legal team, and they're sitting there talking about the finer details of this deal or that, or, you know, because they were trying to work things out, apparently. And Tom Petty takes out a pocket knife, or a switchblade, whatever you want to call it, and starts cleaning his fingernails. To me, that is the most badass thing I've ever heard. I mean, that's something even the Ramones would not do. All right, maybe Dee Dee. But to me, that was the moment where I said, Tom Petty is more punk rock than any 4 members of the fucking Sex Pistols. And I still believe that today, even though I do have a problem with the fact that Tom Petty went after Sam Smith and ended up getting a chunk of that song, when in fact, he had no grounds for doing so. If you'll read up on that, I don't have time to go into that, but read up on it. I mean, we'll talk about it soon, I promise, within the next couple weeks. But it was kind of a dick move. I thought better of Tom, and I was disappointed in the way he handled that. So, back to this issue. So, Tom Petty's third album, the one that was recorded on the sly while he was in the middle of all these legal proceedings, was called Damn the Torpedoes. Maybe you've heard of it. It had a few hits. Refugee, Even the Losers. So, that album had made MCA millions. There were obviously still those at the label that wanted to see Petty fail, though, and I think that was their reasoning for sticking him with the big price tag. It's like, hey, let's stick him with this fucking price hike. Take him down a notch. The fucker. Petty, of course, threw a major hissy fit, going so far as to be photographed on the cover of the Rolling Stone, ripping $1 in half. Ooh. And in the end, MCA buckled yet again, and the price hike was shelved indefinitely. But the message they had sent to everyone who bought music at the time was, if you give us the chance, we will gouge you. And that's not a good message to send to consumers. And we heard it loud and clear. I mean, we were kind of like, well, we want this new Tom Petty album, but we fucking hate MCA. So, I don't know. Some of us went and taped it from our friend. I, of course, never bought the album. I bought the single, The Waiting. And I was kind of disappointed with it. I didn't like the song. I didn't like the song on the other side of the single. And therefore, I never bought the album. Over the years, I've heard the album, and I still contend it's not that great of an album. So anyway, the labels were pissed. They still needed that money because the industry was still in that recession. So they're still very nervous, Oh my God, my platinum expense account. I won't be able to buy cocaine by the truckload. So the next best thing was to come up with the idea to switch formats. Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. So while they were planning that, something else happened. MTV. They weren't expecting MTV. In fact, they fought MTV tooth and nail because they saw it as a threat. Oh my God! What's the threat, man? They're helping you out. And indeed they did, because about 1983 or so, the industry just came alive. All of these video stars, the Duran Durans, the Adam Ants, the Cyndi Laupers, Voices, Carrie, Till Tuesday, Amy Mann, oh! And so everything was thriving. At that point, I would have said, let's just put that new format thing on the back burner because we don't need it. Things are humming along right now. They've forgiven us for being blatant money grubbers, and they're buying everything we're throwing at them. And MTV is a godsend. But no, they went right on thinking about this format change, and around 1984, they started pressing up CDs. The very first CD produced in America, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. And after that, there was a very aggressive move to basically have the CD be the format of choice of the entire industry. And they, as a result, immediately phased out the records. And by immediately, I mean by like 1989. Between 86 and 89, that was the transition period for we consumers where we were rebuying titles that we already owned on album or cassette. But we were now buying them on CD. Worse yet, we were being charged twice as much, even though CDs were cheaper to make. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to blame an industry for its own demise, that's it. Looking back, though, I think we were all enamored by the prospect of better sound quality. But for me, the main benefit of the CD was the portability factor. I mean, I had a cassette Walkman, and that was great, because you could go anywhere and listen to your music. But if you wanted to hear a specific song, you still had to fast forward or rewind, flip the tape over, do a tap dance, knock on a door 3 times. I don't know, whatever. It was a pain in the ass. Oh, hey, man, you want to hear this song? Oh, shit, it's on the other side. And at the other end of the tape. So here we go. No, that's not it. And on it went. That was the experience. Let's say, you've got this hot chick that that when you play her, you drop the bomb on me, baby, she is going to open up her pants and things are going to get wild. But it takes you 5 minutes to find the song. Good luck with that. With a CD, all you had to do was just go doop, 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 boop. You dropped the bomb on me, baby. And you're in like Flynn. So that was the selling point for me, even though, the first thing I did was buy a big expensive home CD player that didn't go anywhere. So the upside for the labels was that the musicians weren't making any money on this new increase, because in the contracts, they called it an experimental format long after it had become the dominant format. And because of that, a lot of artists were getting, pretty much the same royalty rate they were making for vinyl. So that was the real dick move on the part of the record labels, because they were making twice as much on the sale of each CD, yet they were not cutting the artist into it at all. At all. And they could have passed the savings on to us. They could have been less greedy. They could have maybe raised the price $1 or $2 more than an LP or cassette. But no, they doubled the price. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The music executives, in their inherent wisdom, hate the artists with a passion, a fiery, white-hot passion. You know who they dislike almost as much? The consumers. What industry does that and survives? The correct answer is none. And there is no path to survival for the music industry on its current path. They know that. So what you have are executives that are afraid to sign any artists because, number one, they hate them, and number two, because they don't care, because they don't expect to be at this company in 5 years anyway. So why do anything to benefit the company? What they're going to do is they're going to try to get theirs, and then they're just going to jump to another industry and suck that one dry. Maybe they'll go into the urinal cake industry, because to them it's all the same fucking thing. And that's fucking sad. Lunchboxes. You remember them, right? They were those full-color, all-metal beauties that would carry our lunch back and forth to school each day. They were a part of who we were. Your lunchbox said, I love this TV show. I love this cartoon character. I love this rock band. It was part of your identity. And every summer, when you were ramping up to go back to school and picking out your school clothes, you also got to pick out a new lunchbox for the school year. And this particular school year, I got my hands on a bodacious Daisy Duke lunchbox. I mean, she looked incredible on that thing. And so, I mean, I didn't want to leave it anywhere. I put it on my desk, and I left it on my desk, and I stared at Daisy Duke for pretty much the whole day, at least until my teacher happened by and said, "Oh, Mitch, could you put that outside underneath the table where everybody else's lunchbox is?" To which I said, "Hell no. Hell no. Were you or were you not here last week when 5 of our lunchboxes got kicked in? I'm sorry. My parents have given me strict instructions not to come home with a kicked-in lunchbox. So this thing stays with me. Period." And that would be good enough for that day. But every other day or so, she would kind of try to get me to put it back in the hallway. I don't know why. I don't know why she felt so threatened by me staring at a Daisy Duke photo at my desk. I wasn't doing anything. I was still paying attention for the most part, as far as she could tell. So one day when I'm at recess, this very same teacher took my lunchbox and put it underneath the table with everybody else's lunchbox. I came in from recess, saw that my lunchbox was gone, went straight to my teacher, said, "Hi, how are you? Where the fuck is my lunchbox?" She said, "Oh, it's under the table out in the hallway where it belongs." I made a beeline for that table. She was right behind me. We both got there and found that my box had been kicked in. Fucked up beyond recognition. It was just a mangled piece of metal at this point. Completely useless. The thermos had been cracked and the liquid had poured out, leaking all over my lunch. So, I mean, my lunch was unedible. I looked at my teacher and I said, "Thanks." And I went to my seat. And I don't think I ever said another word to her that school year. She would call on me to answer a question on the board. 3 plus 5. Complete silence from me. Absolute complete silence. And apparently, I still have issues about this because I'm talking about it now. And it's because I really hate authority. And maybe that's why. Thing is, once we kids hit puberty or thereabouts, it becomes downright uncool to bring a lunchbox to school anymore. So those of us who still bring our lunch to school do so in a brown paper bag. That's right, out of nothing more than simple peer pressure, whether by our fellow students or parents or teachers telling us to grow up or some shit, we traded in our beautiful full-color metal beauties for ugly brown bags that we could not wait to chuck into the garbage every day. How many acres of forests do you imagine have been demolished so that generation after generation of school kids can be stripped of any semblance of a unique identity and trudge to school with their boring-ass brown paper bags in hand, all because after a certain age, lunchboxes are not cool? Well, I, Mitch Henley, am here to tell you in no uncertain terms that lunchboxes are never uncool. I'm also here to tell you that unlike when we were a kid, you could pretty much put whatever you want in that thermos, if you know what I mean. Back in the day, we only had milk, juice, Kool-Aid if you were lucky. I mean, if you had a nice purple mustache at the end of the school day, you were doing something right. And while we're at it, you're never too old for Kool-Aid mustaches. In fact, I would contend that women find them much more attractive than real ones. Plus, you can change it up day to day. Maybe this Friday you feel like having a red mustache. So be it. Sadly, it is impossible to achieve a mustache of any color by drinking bourbon. Believe me, I've tried. And on that note, I bid you all a good day.